Inspector Favour in her police uniform was the very epitome of beauty and authority. Her curves flowed perfectly beneath her uniform, with each step exuding a sensual confidence that drew the gazes of every male officer. Her uniform clung just right, hinting at the strength beneath her femininity, a combination that made her both respected and irresistibly attractive. It wasn't just the allure of her looks. There was a hidden side to Inspector Favour. Though she was fearless in tackling cases and defending justice, she carried a desire that couldn't be easily fulfilled, a longing for a man with enough favor to match her energy and satisfy her nightly cravings. A woman of duty by day, but with a whole different agenda by night. She sought out the city's finest men for reasons the police force would never suspect. Subscribe, sit back and enjoy the thrilling escapades of Inspector Favour, who arrests men for her own pleasure. Inspector Favour was no ordinary police officer. Tall, athletic and blessed with an alluring figure, she was Lagos' own version of Superwoman. But while Favour's career flourished, her love life was a disaster. Despite her attractiveness as a woman, she had a history of boyfriends that were better suited for a sketch comedy. In the last 2 years, she had gone through 5 of them, each one more disappointing than the last. No one could favor her the way she needed. Inspector Favour desired a man with a big third leg, a man who is well endowed between his legs. One day, a call came in about some unknown, notorious young men harassing women at the beach. She jumped into her police cruiser and headed to the beach, with her mind focused as usual on solving the case. At the beach, she scanned the area for the supposed troublemakers. She saw a few young men huddled around some laughing women. But then, her eyes caught on a tall, muscular figure gliding through the waves like he had just walked out of a magazine cover. As he strode out of the water, Inspector Favour's jaw almost dropped. His skin gleamed and his shoulders were broad enough to pack her cruiser on. But it was his lower half that truly captivated her. The man was wearing snug, wet shorts that left little to imagination. The outline in his shorts was enough to make her heart go jiggy-jiggy. From all indication, he was well endowed below the waist. This was her kind of man. She approached him, her steps brisk, but her mind slightly unsteady. "I am Inspector Favour," she said, and flashed her badge. And she said, "Identify yourself," folding her arms in an authoritative pose, though her eyes couldn't resist straying a bit. The man looked at her with an amused expression. "My name is Ebuka." Inspector Favour cleared her throat and said, "What do you do for a living, Ebuka?" He shrugged. "Right now, just relaxing," he said. Favour chuckled and said, "Relaxing? That's suspicious." She cocked an eyebrow. "Mind explaining why you are suspiciously relaxing here?" Ebuka laughed slightly, casting a glance over her as if he knew precisely what was going through her mind. "Inspector, I think I might be in trouble," he said playfully. She smiled, suppressing a shiver. "Oh, you are in real trouble then you know." With a sudden decision, she put the handcuffs on him and said, "You are coming with me." To her own surprise, however, her patrol cruiser veered not towards the station, but in the opposite direction. She ignored the surprised glances from Ebuka. When she pulled up to her apartment complex, she cleared her throat, fighting off the blush creeping onto her cheeks. "Change of plans," she said, trying to sound official. "There is questioning to be done in private." Ebuka leaned in with a grin on his face and said, "Happy to comply, Inspector." What happened next was as unexpected as it was exhilarating. Inspector Favour discovered that Ebuka was a man of many talents, and for the first time, she felt the rare spark of satisfaction. Their passionate sexual encounter kicked off with energy, an intense passion that left her both thrilled and vaguely suspicious that maybe, just maybe, her hunt for satisfaction was over and she has finally found a man that can satisfy her. But as the weeks wore on, the novelty began to wear thin. Favour caught herself lying in bed, staring at the ceiling as Ebuka snored softly beside her. One night, after another unsatisfying session, she propped herself up on an elbow. Looking at him with a weary expression, she said, "You know, Ebuka, when we first met, I thought you would be my saving grace." He opened one eye, clearly confused, and he replied, "Favour, are you saying my bed skills are no longer favorable enough for you?" She rolled her eyes and replied, "It was fun while it lasted. Let's just put it that way." Ebuka chuckled. Unbothered, he said, "What can I say? I will miss you a little." With Ebuka now a fading memory, Inspector Favour was back to searching for that man that could satisfy her in bed. One quiet afternoon at the station, she took another case because the case involves a charming gym instructor who apparently had been causing public distraction while jogging shirtless, wearing only tight black shorts. Inspector Favour arrived at the scene only to find the infamous jogger jogging and sweating, wearing only a tight short. She was fascinated by his manliness. This jogger was chiseled in a way that could only be described as unfair. He was tall, dark, and radiated a confidence that practically hummed through his strong muscles. And then there was the telltale bulge in his running shorts that would have made the yams blush if they could. Inspector Favour took a deep breath, adjusted her uniform, and sauntered up to him. "Excuse me," she said in her best authoritative tone. "We need to talk." He looked up, grinning like he had just won the lottery, and he said, "Well, hello there, officer." "It's Inspector Favour to you," she corrected, giving him her best professional glare, though her heart was doing flips. And she said, "And your name, sir?" "My name is Mike," he replied, "but people around here call me the Hammer." The Hammer. Favour cocked an eyebrow, trying her best not to burst out laughing. "I'm sure they do call you that." Mike flashed a grin that would have put a paste advert to shame. "They call me that for a reason. Are you interested in finding out?" Inspector Favour ignored the question and said, "The neighborhood have complained that you are a nuisance with the display of your body." "Oh, really?" Hammer asked sarcastically. "Yes, really," Favour replied and said, "I will arrest you for questioning." On the way to the police station, she diverted and drove to her house. She couldn't help but smile to herself. This time, she was sure she had found it, the answer to her unending quest for a man that can satisfy her. If Ebuka was the appetizer, then Mike, aka the Hammer, was the main course meal, or so she thought. Once inside her place, Mike wasted no time, proving exactly why he was nicknamed the Hammer. Their first night together was as intense as a high-speed chase through Lagos traffic. Favour thought she had finally met her match. But after a week or two, things started to take a hilarious turn. Mike was obsessed with fitness. Every time they would get close, he would suggest they try out some advanced yoga poses. "My lovely inspector," he would say, "do you know the power of a handstand push-up?" "Mike," Favour replied, "I just want to relax. I didn't arrest you for yoga lessons." But no matter how much she tried to spend more of their time together in bed, Mike was more interested in bringing up new fitness technique. Soon enough, Inspector Favour realized that the hammer was more focused on building his muscles than on giving her the favor she was truly looking for. "Mike, we need to talk," she said one morning, watching him do some squats. "Sure, babe," he replied. "Let me get into one more set." "Forget it, Mike," she said sharply. "You are dismissed. This relationship is over and out." Mike was shocked for a brief moment, and he shrugged and gave her a quick wink and said, "No worries, but you will never meet another man with this level of dedication." "Oh, I'm sure you are right," she muttered, watching him jog off into the sunrise without so much as a backward glance. Favour sighed and returned to her police work, half certain she had given up on her quest. But fate wasn't done with her yet. Inspector Favour had thought she had seen it all, but her next case brought her face to face with Chuks, the charmer. His reputation was well known as a smooth-talking businessman, with one foot in Lagos and the other constantly testing the borders. Chuks was the type that made rules only to break them. Inspector Favour was investigating a case when she first encountered him. That night, Chuks was leaning casually against a lamppost in front of a luxury bar, looking confident and dazzlingly handsome. Inspector Favour was no stranger to bold men, but something about his ease drew her in and made her lose her breath. "Inspector Favour," he greeted her, eyeing her badge with a grin. "Now there is a woman who commands respect," he said. Favour raised an eyebrow and said, "How is it you know my name?" she asked. Chuks leaned closer, lowering his voice, and said, "I know you more than you know yourself, my amiable, resplendent inspector." This one is trouble, Favour thought to herself. And just like that, Chuks found himself in handcuffs, and this time, Favour actually took the suspect to the station. But in a twist of fate, the police cells were particularly empty that night, and Chuks was the only one in the cell. As the clock struck midnight, Inspector Favour went past the few police officers on night duty at the counter, and she found herself wandering back towards Chuks' cell. She had questions, she told herself, questions that required an unconventional approach. Chuks, lounging on the metal bench inside the cell, sat up with a knowing smile. "You could not resist my charms, right?" he teased. "Quiet," she snapped, but the laugh in her eyes betrayed her. They stood there, each daring the other to make the next move. Favour broke every rule in the book by unlocking the cell. She quickly pinned him to the wall and kissed him. They had an intimate romantic night right there in the cell. For the next few months, Favour and Chuks became inseparable. It was like she had found gold. Everything she desired in a man was available in Chuks. He was well endowed, in fact, too endowed for that matter. By the day, she was the hard-working inspector with a decorated record, and by night, she was utterly captivated by her new boyfriend's charm, and they spent long hours in bed. Chuks had a knack for business opportunities, and Favour was only too happy to support him, all while believing his vague stories of import-export dealings. He was always asking Favour for small favors, like moving money through her foreign bank account, and every time she questioned him, he would flash that devilish smile and say, "You know you are my one and only Favour, right? Please do it for me." Inspector Favour would agree because he always satisfies her beyond measure in bed. One morning, life took a sudden dramatic turn for Favour. Her world was turning upside down. She had arrived at work that morning, only to find her name plastered across newspaper headlines. It read, "Top police inspector caught in money laundering scandal." Chooks had used her connection to move dirty money, and the entire operation had been traced right back to her. In a single swoop, he had vanished from Lagos and skipped to Europe. The investigation that followed was brutal. By the end of it, Inspector Favour was not only dismissed from the police force, but stripped of every ounce of respect she had once commanded. Her fellow officers no longer called her Inspector, but rather murmured names she wished she couldn't hear. Humiliated and unemployed, she spent her days avoiding the outside world and her nights wondering how she had fallen so hard and so fast. About 6 months after she was dismissed from the police force, she was taking a walk outside her house for the first time in 6 months in a lonely neighborhood, and she felt despair, anger, and shame for all the things she had done, all the men she had slept with, all in the name of looking for satisfaction in bed. She hated herself. In the depths of her despair, she stumbled upon a small church. The sounds of hymn and prayers spilling out from its doors. She entered the church, slipping into the back seats, hoping to remain invisible. But as the pastor spoke of forgiveness, of finding favor, even in one's lowest moments, she felt as if every word the pastor spoke was meant for her. Week by week, she returned to that church, and little by little, her shame faded, replaced by a new hope. She often thought she had found God, but as the pastor liked to say, no one finds God. He is the one who finds you. Slowly, she started gaining confidence in the Word of God. One beautiful Sunday morning, as the service ended, a soft-spoken man named David approached her, and he said, "I see you here often. I was wondering if you would like some company." Favour smiled, her heart light for the first time in a long while, and she said, "I think I would like that." Grateful for the simple and gentle kindness that he offered. The two of them became casual friends, but over time, they started getting attracted to each other. In David, she found a new kind of love, one that didn't thrive on thrill or danger or even sex. Rather, their love grew quietly, deeply, like roots in the soil. A year later, after Favour had met David, they got married in that same church where she had found solace after she had taken the wise decision to forgive herself. Her scandal had become a distant memory, and she had finally found a different kind of favor, a favor that didn't require her arresting anyone.